So we'll focus primarily on those new features, and we'll go over how to access those features, how you can use those features within your current workflow, and decide if that is something that you as an agency would like to participate in. One other note, we did add, just because it's not particularly easy to show within the software, we do have a large number of new data formats. We continue to evaluate the market, and as needed, we can develop and bring in new data formats through our existing data agent and data agent or data collector frameworks. So if you as an agency have a particular data format or something that you think the industry at large would benefit from being able to collect that information, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll have some more information at the end of the slide. One bit of housekeeping before we get into some of the demonstration here. If you do have any questions, there is a question box within the software here, the GoToWebinar software, so you can click Ask a Question, and we'll try to work that question in as we go. Everyone should be muted by default because we are recording this webinar, and everyone should get a link to it at the end of the webinar. If you have somebody who wasn't able to attend, we'll be more than happy to send that along. So please stay muted. Hopefully everybody isn't able to unmute themselves throughout the webinar. And if you do have any questions, again, feel free to ask it through that questions box. So as I mentioned, this Contrail 8 upgrade was a really big effort on behalf of our Contrail development team. So really proud of the work that they did leading up to this upgrade process, but also going through and upgrading the different agencies around the world. And so we're happy to announce that we've upgraded all of the instances of Contrail around the world to Contrail 8. And this is just a reminder that it allows us to continue to develop and grow the Contrail ecosystem, and that's included in the maintenance and support of the Contrail application. So it will always include us making sure your version is the most recent version, allows us to support everyone, and push out and develop new features in the software. So with that, I will jump right in and start walking through all of the different features that were released in 2020, and to highlight and show what those look like. So I'm gonna go ahead and in the slideshow here and start showing Contrail. All right, so first up on the highlights that I wanted to show this webinar, we made several pretty major front-end changes on the user side that we wanted to highlight. First off, there's an all-new framework visualization library that we use for the front end, so it's going to be more responsive, as well as updating the look and feel to be a little more modern and up to date with industry standards. So most of the interactions with Contrail 8 haven't changed, right? We're still calling things map and sites and dashboards and things like that, but overall, just the look and feel has been updated. So with that, I'll jump into, let's go ahead and jump into sites and get right into graphing here. So I'm going to click on a site here called Peace River and click on our stage. Now, some new front end updates with that were released in 2020. You can see some summary information up at the top is now included with the on each one of the sensor pages, as well as the graphing engine has made a minor update behind the scenes to make sure that's sustainable into the future. But other than that, all the same layout for all the different sections of the software. I did want to highlight a lot of new features have been added into our multi-graph page. So the same kind of core functionality is still there, right? So we get a single page view of this sensor of just the graph and the associated sensors. If we do want to add in more sensors to visualize at the same time, we can do that by clicking the add button here in the top right. But I just wanted to highlight some new updates that came in under the options tab. Now we have some more abilities within the graphing engine on this multi-graph page. So first off, we're able to change the value min and max. In the past, Contrail and even the default right now is the Contrail graphing engine will automatically scale the y-axis to whatever the values on the graph are showing. So in this case, as well as threshold. So in this case, we have an action stage that's a little over 3 feet here, and we have a major that's up at 10 feet. So the graph automatically scales to make sure everything fits within that, including if there are any data points above or below those thresholds. And so we added in the ability, you can now change the value min and max. So if you want that to start at 0 instead of 2 feet, you can type in 0 and you can see the graph automatically updated and bumped it down to 10. And the same thing for the value max if we wanted to change that to 20 feet in this case. So just keep in mind that those are finished values that will be updated in this case in feet, because that's the sensor type that I selected. So this makes it really handy if you're maybe doing screenshots or saving graphs or doing things like that, or sticking it in a report or something like that, and you want to have consistent y-axes for all of your graphs, so it's a little more consistent. You don't have to every single time look at what that is. You can now change what those min and max values are, as well as change the position on the screen of where the labels and sensor label is. So you can now both select left and right. We also added in a data quality flag or toggle, where if any of your sensor data fails validation or has a different data quality flag other than good, we can toggle that on, and then it will show up as actually an X with that data point. You can easily see what those sensor values are. And the reason that that's important is a lot of times, if you have validation and set up to a particular, let's just say max value, you don't think water level will ever get to that, you can quickly jump in and see, all right, let me just toggle that on just to see what our highest reading was, if any of it failed validation. And quickly, if you need to jump in and edit any of that data, you're able to do that as well too. The last item here is under the options, we do have the history flag that we can toggle on. And what this does is it pulls in, so right now we are looking at the last roughly 2 days worth of data for this particular graph. And this is a set of time series data that we're graphing on the graph. If you wanted to look at 2 days, the exact 2 days, December 15th through the 17th last year, to see maybe where you were towards the end of last year from a water level perspective, or maybe compare it to a previous event, you would have had to have opened it in 2 separate tabs. Now you can actually select a start and end time, and you can compare that to whatever length of time that you're looking at now. You can compare that same length of time sometime in the past. So really great to look at and compare maybe a particular heavy rainfall month maybe you had. You could see how that stacked up in December of last year, and you would just select the date range, hit continue, and it will plot it onto the map or onto the graph, so you can see that data at the same time. So some new graphing updates. We also on the map have added in some additional graphing features as well too. So under sensors, most of this map should look familiar to most people, and most of the core functionality is the same. But under the sensor type, once you select a sensor, so let's just stick with the same sensor type stage that we were showing earlier, we can see now that we selected the stage sensor type, we now get two more toggles down below. Previously, we would just have thresholds, which is a great way to see what sites and sensors are exceeding particular thresholds across an area. It's a great way to see spatially and visually what's going on in your system. But oftentimes during an event, you have fast changing conditions, and particularly if you have a real-time system, maybe what you decided on to make a decision, you get a new data point and it's either up or below. So what we added in is a statistic feature within the software. So now you can look at maximum, minimum, and average value, and then there is a range, a time frame range, that we will do that statistic for you. So in this case, if we wanted to look at the maximum value over the last 2 days, or maybe you're in an event, you just want to look at the maximum value over the last 12 hours, you just select that, and the values will automatically change on the map. We could do that same for minimum and average for looking at the data. So I'm going to toggle that off. And then we also added in the ability to look at archive data on the map. This has been a really, really commonly requested feature. In a way, this enables you to look at and see how an event evolved across your area. So we just toggle on the archive selector here, and we get a date time picker. And from this, you're able to go back and look at a particular date. So let's just say you had an event around Thanksgiving time here in the US. You can select this, and you can see we get an indicator on the map that we are in archive mode. So a nice yellow box just to remind you that you're not looking at current conditions. And if you wanted to look at a particular date and time, you can go back and select that date, and it automatically will update. So you can see the values changing. So this is and the way the archive selector works is whatever this end time is, it will pick the closest value to that occurred before that end time. So this is a really great way if you wanted to look at rainfall across an area. You would just select whatever time frame or time roll up that you want to look at, and then select the date time, and it will automatically show how much rain you received over 48 hours using this, whatever that date time selector is on the map. So really, really powerful features on the map as well as in the graph, just to give you a little bit more context of what's going on in the area for both real time looking at the statistics, as well as after an event going back and looking at and being able to evaluate how your system responded during an event. If you're maybe looking at a particular high or low event that's of interest, you can go back and select that date time to pull that up. All right, so we also added in some new visualizations on within dashboards. So we'll hop over here and take a look at the dashboards. And this is just a reminder, as people are looking at dashboards, as you're maybe adding in a new dashboard or wanting to see what the latest dashboards are, the latest widgets that we've added to dashboards, you can always go to demonstration.onerain.com. This is our demonstration site of the software, and this is really where we will update and keep the most recent versions of new development and highlight that within the application. And if you click on dashboards up at the top here, you're able to see we have 28 dashboards that are defined here with all the different widget types. So if you're trying to remember, what is that widget type called, I'm wanting to see the latest wind widgets to show someone to see how we can use that. you can always go to demonstration.onerain.com, click dashboards, and you're able to pop in and out and look at all of these different widgets that we have for dashboards. So one of the largest areas that we've added in some new widgets is in the wind section. So if we click this wind widget dashboard, you can see there's 4 new widgets that have been added in. The first one is a current wind speed gauge. And this is a great widget to show what the current wind speed at a weather station is. And we create this dial here, and you're able to select the min and max, and it will automatically move depending on what the wind speed is. Similar thing with wind direction here as well too. So you're able to see the wind direction, and that changes based on what the degrees wind direction is showing. Those two coupled together really provide a really great wind visualization for weather stations. So those are really the two kind of norms for looking at wind speed and wind direction. So really great to add those into weather station dashboards. And then the bottom two are other popular industry standards for looking at wind as well too. So in the bottom left, we have what's called a wind rose. And really this shows the different directions over a set period of time that the wind has been blowing from. And it primarily uses both the percentage of the time that it's in that direction, as well as what the wind speed from that direction has been. So you can see the Florida has had, actually, I think that's in Florida, I'd have to double check. But you can see there's been predominantly about 1/3 of the time the wind has been coming from the north, as well as we've had some 0 to 4 mile-an-hour winds has been the majority of the wind speed. So pretty light winds, mainly coming from the north. And so we're able to get both a general distribution of where the wind has been coming from over whatever you would like to define for this particular time frame. So in this case, we have the last 30 days, but it can be really any time frame that you would like to select, and it will automatically update and show and do categories and distribution math for that. The other wind widget that's was released is the wind direction distribution. So really similar to the wind rose, but in this case we're just looking at direction. We're not looking at the wind speed. So that's the primary differentiator between these two widgets. So if wind speed is important to your operations and a particular direction along with that wind speed is important, I would recommend just using the wind rose. That's pretty standard across the industry and is a great way to look at those two variables kind of on one plot. But if you're just looking at wind direction, so let's just say you have maybe a reservoir that you're in charge of, and it doesn't really matter how much the wind is, it just matters on what direction for if you have some wind loading across your reservoir that you might be sensitive from a particular direction on your dam. You can create this wind direction distribution. It's the same thing as the wind rose, except it does not have those wind speed categories and percentages that are defined within the wind rose. So you're able to hover in and see what those different percentage points are for that matches up. So we could see pretty close, 32.63% of the time it's been coming from the north for this particular weather station. All right, and just to kind of round out the user side, again, it's been more about updating the front end framework. So things like on the map should be exactly the same. Our site and sensor visualization is exactly the same, as well as news bookmarks and dashboards are all the same. We do also have some additional widgets that have been added in. We've always been able to do things like embedding Twitter widgets, but we're now able to add in some existing third-party widgets like Google Drive or Google Folders. This is a great way if you have particular, let's say, action plans or documents that you want associated with a dashboard. You're able to embed in a Google Drive file, or list of files or list of folders can be added into the into a dashboard. So again, feel free to check this out. All of those widgets can be found on demonstration.onerain.com. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump to the back end here of the software. So we're going to click the administration link, and just wanted to show one kind of feature within our alarms module. So the core of the alarms module has just received a kind of minor, along with the entire administrative side, an updated look and feel with the Contrail 8 update. But I just wanted to highlight one new, really requested feature. And for those that maybe aren't entirely familiar with this, or maybe don't even realize they need to have this this need, this is a great way to add in more contextual and additional information into your alarm delivery. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new rule within the software. And let's just say I'm wanting to let's jump to this same Peace River site that we've been looking at, and I want to be notified of high water at Peace River. Okay, and for us, we just want to look at the last value. Again, you can just start typing and it'll automatically fill in some of the formulas or functions for our equation builder. And let's say I want to be notified if it's above 20 feet. And so in this case, if the Peace River site, if the stage sensor gets above 20 feet, we're going to go ahead and go into an alarm state, and we'll have an alarm will be triggered. And oftentimes, a lot of agencies also want to look at data from an associated site. So in that case, if we type in doing 2 ampersands and click last value, we're able to evaluate the sensor reading at an additional site. So let's just say you want to get an alert at either Peace River or this Bullfrog Creek. Okay, this is really critical for your operations. You would put in the site ID and sensor ID. So I'll just go ahead and put 1, 2, 3, 4 and sensor ID 4. And so in this case, you're able to get the last value at both the Peace River, if it's above 20, and the last value at Bullfrog Creek is above 15 feet, let's just say. So this is great. We've always been able to do this and to do as many, to build our equations however we might want to do that. But the tricky part always came in is down in the delivery. So we have these tags that you can add into the delivery that will automatically embed whatever the information about the site and sensor, as well as other metadata information that you can embed into the alarm delivery. So that way, when you get an email or a text with this delivery that's associated with this alarm, you can get things like obviously site name, or what the site ID is. But you can also embed things like the trigger value, or just the value of the site, and the actually it's a data value up here. And one of the complicated things to go a little quicker here is we've only been able to embed data for whatever the site and sensor that the alarm or the rule lives at, but we're now able to also embed and show data for other corresponding sites. So this is a great way if you want to have or know other information of what's going on. Let's just say this particular watershed, you get an alarm and it shows that the Peace River site is flooding, but that Bullfrog Creek site is just downstream, and you expect that to also be flooded. If not, maybe you have some sort of bad data that's going on at that site. What you can do now is with this data value tag here, you can also do the parentheses and then do the same site ID and sensor, and it will embed data from other sites and sensors into the delivery message body. So again, a great way to, if you have other sites and sensors upstream or downstream or in an area or other weather stations around, and you have one weather station reporting a high wind gust, and you need to you just want to have all that information in one email so you don't have to go digging around. This is a great way to embed and include other data and information at other sites in the delivery body. All right, so again, there's been a lot of other behind the scenes and minor features added throughout Contrail, and so we're not going to hit all of those today. We just wanted to hit a handful of useful features or features that we think everybody could really add into their workflow and start looking at right away. The other couple applications that I just wanted to highlight that we've also released features in is our Contrail camera application. So for those that are not familiar, our Contrail camera application is designed to collect, store, and serve up images that either you as an agency own, or if there's other images on the web that you would like to scrape and to serve up. Contrail camera is designed for exactly that. It uses both FTP as well as HTTP scraping of images. So if you have an existing camera, more than likely Contrail camera is able to collect those images. And so we've had a lot of interest, and a lot of groups are really starting to look at cameras and implement them within their workflow to either verify conditions or to just document conditions along particular watersheds or locations that's of importance to them. So the actual Contrail camera application has been around for longer than just this year, but we did just want to highlight a couple new features as well as tease something at the very end. So if we click on cameras here, we see all the different cameras that are defined. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Boulder Creek camera, and so we get things like we can pull up the images that were collected at this location, as well as view the time lapse and look at movies. And this is really great if you have a camera out in the field and you're having to do either custom development or documentation or storage of these images as a service. Contrail is able to collect and store those images. But one of a really common feature request that we had was being able to know if a camera stopped reporting or if we had any sort of issues with the camera. So if we click under configurations and click on cameras, we see our list of cameras. If we need to go in and edit any of them, we can. In this case, we're going to click this Boulder Creek camera that is defined here. It's actually being scraped on a website that's provided by the Boulder County information. But if we wanted to, let's just say, have an alarm on this information, we could click the rules button, and this is where we're able to define and set up rules associated with this camera. So really similar to our core Contrail application, where you can define rules, and when those rules are evaluated as true, there's actions and deliveries and indications within the software. This rule is rules can be added to particular cameras to alarm on a number of variables and metrics. So in this case, the first one that pops up is latency. So if we add this in, if we don't receive a camera image in the last 60 minutes, we're going to send out an email to this, whatever email is specified here. And so this is a great way to know if there's an issue at one of your sites, one of your camera locations, or maybe there's a data feed issue, or maybe the solar panel is slowly dying, and or the battery's dying, or not able to have charges or to sustain charges within the camera system. This is a great way to just have a quick notification that, hey, we have not received a valid image within a set amount of time. And so if you could set that in minutes to whatever you expect those images to be reporting in. We also have a number of other metrics that you can alarm on. So things like total images, if you have duplicate images, or if maybe an image is coming in but it's the same image, right? Duplicates. If the total size is above or below certain thresholds, oftentimes we'll see camera images that, if sometimes their internal camera brains get a little scrambled and they send really just kind of shells of images without not actual any data associated with it. So we're able to alarm and be notified if there's any sort of issues with the camera. And the reason that that's important is a lot of times these cameras are public facing, and these cameras are viewed by surrounding agencies, and often the public looks at these to verify conditions before they go out, or just to see what's going on across the area, as well as newscasts, television stations, and things like that. So this is a great way to get notified of what's going on before other people notice those things. So if a site is not reporting, or a camera location is not reporting, or if there's something inherently wrong with the actual images that are being collected by the software. So camera images are and rules within cameras are a great new feature that was added in for cameras. One other thing that I actually forgot to mention on the Contrail application side. Let's go ahead and jump over to our Peace River. We'll go ahead and click on our same stage sensor that we're looking at. So we also added in a pretty large feature within the software is data annotations. So what this is a great way for system administrators to indicate to other users, to other administrators, and to the public, if it's necessary, information about the data. For a long time, we've basically just had to put information in the notes. So things like what the record high is, what the lowest possible value a sensor could be, or interesting events that have occurred throughout the year, throughout the sensor's lifetime. You've had to just put those in free-form notes boxes. But we've recently added in data annotations, so you can include metadata about particular data points, or about just the time series information at large. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back. We have a data annotation already set up in November. In late November, we should see a data point or a data annotation. So we can see there is a vertical line here now with a little like monitor computer right above that line. So it's right next to, let me just zoom in so you can see it. It's this particular line right here. This is a cue for the user that there is something associated or of interest at this particular time. So if we turn on our data markers, you can see it's actually associated with this particular data point. If we click on this monitor, we get a title. So we can see this is the record high for November. This is the record high for November 22nd. Please contact support for more information. So we get a visual graphing cue that there's something of interest about this data point. And so this could be anything. That text field that we just put in some dummy information here, you can put in anything you want, and I'll show that in just one second. We also get a cue down at the bottom. So we once you select a date range that has a data annotation defined within that range, the annotations box will automatically show up, and you'll get a clear view of all the annotations. So if you have multiple annotations within a time frame, they'll both show up in the graph, so you can see them graphically, but you also get a list of them, so you can kind of get all that information without having to click around to see what's going on. So again, this is great for documentation of maybe record high events, or when a data time series starts or ends, or if there was a maintenance gap, or anything about the data in the actual time series information that you want to indicate to other administrators so they know what to look at or what not to look at. It's a great resource to look at and to document that. So let's go ahead and walk through that really quickly. So over on the administrative side, let's go ahead and navigate, click Sites here, and we have a couple of different ways that we can actually input this information. So let's click on the same stage sensor that we've been looking at. So we have basically two ways we can do this, and it depends on the type of, or the exact usage of the data annotation that you would like to look at. So the easiest way, if you're wanting to tie it to a particular data point, so let's just say there's a record high, and that data point is the record high, and you want to associate it with it. Now when you go into the edit data section of the software, you notice this green annotation button is next to every single data point on the page. So this is how you would go in and create a data annotation. So we'll click this green button. We could see it automatically populates the time, so it's associated with that data point. So you can give it a title. So example, record high for December, and I'm using record high a lot, but it really could be anything. And then you see you have a full edit field that you can put in really anything you want. So we have a full edit features. You can add in bullet points, or you can actually edit the HTML source code too. So if you have a table that you want to show, that's maybe showing the timing of a record high event, or let's just say you just put in a new sensor and you want to have a data annotation at the very beginning. You can put in more information about when this site was installed, maybe who paid for it, what that period of record will look like, things like that. So in this case, test information, and let's go ahead and click save here. Now we do have the same published and privileged features associated with this. So if there is information that maybe you don't want the public to see, right? Maybe it's an internal data annotation. Hey, this is when the pressure transducer or the bubbler started to act funny. Don't trust anything of the data after this point. Or maybe it's just an indication of a data cap and explaining why that data cap has occurred. And we don't want the public to see that. So we can toggle on privilege. So only those with the proper privilege level will be able to see that data annotation defined within the software. But I'm going to leave that as is. You can see we land on the actual data annotation page, and if we jump back to the user side and quickly show that Peace River site, we could see our new data annotation should show up here right at the end. So we could see here's our data annotation that we just added in, and we're able to edit that. You can also add in, if we go back to our sensor here, under the data toggle here that we clicked on to get to the edit data page, we also have an actual annotations page, and it shows all of the annotations that are defined within a particular date range. So for example, if you're trying to remember, hey, what was that record high, or when did we have that data gap that we documented, you can go in and select that date range, and it will automatically pull in all the data annotations that are defined within whatever date range that you select. So you can go in add, edit, delete, anything with those data annotations. And you can also click the add button here, and you can define the date time. So if you don't want to tie to a specific data point, let's just say it's the a data gap, or the start of an event, and you don't want to tie it to a specific data point, you can go in and select any date and time period that you would like and include that, and it will show up again on the same graphs and down below all the different site and sensor pages. So really powerful way. It's a great way, I would say, to really start to document a lot of that institutional knowledge that is often built up within agencies. Hey, that particular storm event that we had, it's a great way as you have these events or time periods of interest, you can go in and put a quick data annotation. Just say, hey, this was an interesting event that lasted for the next 3 days. More information, click this link to see the National Weather Service write up about it, or whatever it is. But it's a great way to document anything that's really data centric and has to any sort of metadata or information that you would like to define long term and have it live within the software. So we do have a question about the statistics and archive feature on the map. So the statistics features and the archives toggle may or may not be visible for you. There are a couple behind the scenes toggles that need to be flipped, as well as if you're depending on your exact deployment, you may or may not have access to that. So if you're in a shared environment, you may or may not have access to those toggles. So I would just say go ahead and reach out to us if that's of interest for you, and we can double check to make sure that that those fields are on if that's of interest to you guys. Thanks for the question. All right, so that was data annotations. We covered graphing. We covered some of those new map features that were added in to give some more contextual and summary information about on the map with spatial information. We covered cameras and rules. I did just want to also mention as well too, we are in the process of rolling out lightning data and additional lightning and map information that can be embedded within Contrail. So we've been partnering with our sister company and fellow business unit, Earth Networks, that has a global lightning detection network, and as well as other radar and map-centric views of data. And so we're now able to embed lightning data within Contrail. We're also able to alarm on that lightning data and able to visualize particular assets and alarming rings on the map. So I just wanted to show, in this case, here's some lightning activity with a cell well off the coast of Florida. But we can see there's a handful of lightning strikes that have, we have some cloud to ground lightning, and we could see, or in cloud lightning. See over on the left-hand side, our icon legend, as well as the coloring is based on how old that data point is. So now we're about 15 minutes away from this yellowish and less than 10 minutes. We can go ahead and click on that lightning in cloud activity and see what the exact time down to the second was and what the latitude and longitude of that lightning. So this is accessed and looked at under the layer section of the map. We have a Earth Networks Total Lightning Network layer that we can turn on, and you could select whether you would like flashes or pulse, what time period you would like to go back to look at, whether you want in cloud or cloud to ground, what's important to you, as well as if you wanted to go back and look at a particular event. So in this case, there's not a whole lot actually going on across the U.S., but here's an example of a proximity ring and an alarming ring for this particular location. So you're able to write alarms, and really for most agencies that are on the call, something like this will be important. If you have infrastructure that are tied to your operations, like a networking or a repeater location, or public safety assets. You know, if you're maybe operating a dam and you're worried about electrical activity in the middle of an event, you could set up these assets or alarming locations and be notified if there's any sort of activity, electrical activity in that area. You can get text and emails and really leverage our alarm module to look at and verify that data. We also have all of Earth Network's radar and storm ETA and dangerous thunderstorm alerts, things like that. So you could see, in this case, I'm going to toggle on the storm ETAs. You can see if we zoom in far enough, we could see these storms and roughly what time based on storm motion and speed, what those time to impacts are for those particular cells, in this case, that are leaving off the eastern side of Florida here. But lots of other information about storm severity and public safety. And the nice thing is it's visualized and shown on the map, so you can overlay that with your weather station data and see what that what those time to impacts are for those particular areas. So we're going to be having a formal launch for this in the early part of January. So more information is to come. We've been working behind the scenes to get this stable and production ready for all of our customers. So we will have pricing and more marketing information sometime in early or middle of January. So go ahead and look for that. If that's of interest to you, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to provide more information when that information is made available. Just wanted to show two more things, and we do have one quick question. We have a Contrail help website, help.onerain.com, that the team has done a really great job documenting frequently asked questions, popular knowledge-based articles, glossary terms. What do these terms actually mean? If maybe you have someone that's joining for the first time and you know, that's starting on a team and is getting to know Contrail, it's a great place to start if you're into looking at information on the web. So help.onerain.com, I think this came out towards the end of 2019 or early 2020. So just wanted to highlight that. As always, it's a great starting point. Under support, over on the left-hand side, we have information on how to submit a request, or if you just want to send us an email directly. So if you have any questions or requests about anything that I showed today, you can click on those links there and see that. So we did have one question about being able to show 2 time periods. So I'll go ahead and show that real quick. Let's jump back to the user side. Under sites, let's go ahead and keep using that Peace River example since it's a nice data set to look at. And let's just say we wanted to compare, let's just say we wanted to compare this November, November of 2020. Let's go ahead and click November. I have to jump to the multi-graph here. Sorry about that. Let's just say we wanted to compare November 1st through November 30th. You can see automatically pulls up starting November 1 and all the way through November 30th. I didn't actually go to the multi-graph page here. There we go. So November 1st through the 30th. We click on the options tab and toggle on the history. Let's just say we want to compare this November, see what, you know, this 7-foot max here is this, how did this compare to the same time last year? just go ahead and click back to November 1, and on the end time, go ahead and click November 30th of 2019. Click continue here. And so now we have two data sets, two different time periods overlaid on the graph, right? So you can see up at the top, we have November 1st, 2020 to November 30th, 2020. And then we also have November 1st, 2019 to November 30th, 2019. And we can see the coloring here. The black line is still that same current reading that we showed for this year for November. But we also get this blue calendar line now. Looks like a blue here, and it's a little bit lighter on the map or on the graph. But we can see that it's 2019 November 1st to 2019 November 30th. And you can see that overlaid in the back, right? And it actually says history and shows what the date time is, and it's a different marker. So really great way if you're wanting to look at, compare a particular time series data set to a time series data set in the past. Instead of having to have multiple graphs open, have multiple scales and things like that, you're able to do all of that right within the by toggling on the history flag on the multi-graph. So one last question, and we'll go ahead and wrap up here in just a second. But a question about data annotations and data downloads. It's my understanding that the data download is separate from the data annotations, and maybe Lindsay or Rosemary can correct me if I'm wrong. But that data download is separate from the data annotation documentation. So just keep that in mind when you are downloading data and looking at it, that it is it will be separate for right now.
Hi, Charles, this is Lindsay. Just wanted to hop on and confirm that understanding. I believe that is also true. I will follow up with the asker of that question should I prove that to be false.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. All right, and we're going to give just another couple of minutes for questions to come in. Go ahead and send those in through the chat. There is a slight lag from when I speak and when you guys actually are able to respond in the chat. So this last item, I just wanted to just really briefly hint at and show some of the exciting new features that we're hoping to launch in the first quarter. So within our camera module, what a really common requested feature is, it's great that we have all of these cameras, and some agencies have 20 plus cameras that they're trying to look at the same time, and when they're in the middle of an event, you're looking at the data, you have all these cameras up, it's hard to tell what's going on across the area. And so a really commonly requested feature is, hey, I want to know and be notified of what's going on in those cameras without actually having to look at it. So we've been working on behind the scenes within 2020, and our team has done a really great job of building out this framework. And we're going to be launching this feature sometime in the first quarter, and have that as an option if agencies are interested. But just wanted to kind of really just briefly hint at it and show what that looks like. So if we go to cameras here and click on this wandering tower, under images here, this is the same image list that we see, and you're able to go back in time and click download for particular areas. But just wanted to show what we've been working on. So if we come down to the bottom, there's now a labels field within the camera, and so we're actually using machine learning and object detection to detect what information is in an image. So in this case, the object detection is picking out a series of cars that are parked in our back parking lot. It's also picking out some wheels and trees and things like that. But it's also assigning a confidence interval and is detecting pretty good job, all the different cars and trucks in the back of our parking lot. Now, one of the advantages of detecting what's going on in these images is we're able to alarm on that, right? So if maybe you're a dam owner and you want to be notified if there's a truck driving on your dam after hours, we're able to detect that there's a truck or a person walking in an area and alarm on that. The other nice thing is we can couple that data with what the sensors are reporting out in the field, right? So let's just say you have a flooded roadway and you know that because you have a pressure transducer out there and Contrail showing that and alarming on that. We can also, if you have a camera pointed at that low water crossing, we can detect if there's a person or a car in that area while there's flooding conditions. So this is just a really brief sneak peek on what the group has been working on. And we're really excited about launching this sometime in the first quarter next year. So we'll have lots of more information. We'll have some dedicated web series on this and recordings of marketing information. But just wanted to kind of have a sneak peek what the group has also been working on that may not be officially launched in 2020. Okay, I don't see any other questions, and we do just have one question about it, inverting the graph to where the zero is at the top. As far as I know, that's we don't have an update on that or any sort of timeline, but we'll go ahead and reach out to you and give you more information and try to document and understand what you're wanting to look at for that, so we can add that into our roadmap. And with that, that concludes our webinar. We really appreciate all the support that the agencies have provided us throughout this year, especially working remotely and having to do these types of things, without members of our company coming to see you and check on you. So we really appreciate the support, this year and many years to come, especially with these some of these major software updates that we've had. And if you as an agency need anything at all, feel free to reach out to us. We know this is a challenging time for everybody. Resources might be stretched thin, especially this time of year. So if you need anything as an agency or have any questions or trying to spin someone up or whatever it is, we have a really great team that's here to support you and provide direction and guidance and any additional support. We will be sending out a follow-up email with both the recording. So if there's someone in your group that did not see this information, that you might want to share it, or if anything might have piqued their interest, you can forward that recording along. And then we'll also be sending out a really brief survey, just 5 or 6 questions. And those questions, would ask you to consider taking that survey. It shouldn't take too long, and that really helps to guide both the webinar series that we put on every year, both topics and timing, and if the things need to be reiterated or things like that. It's a great time to give your feedback on that, as well as just the direction of Contrail in general. So if you have any sort of feedback or features that you wish Contrail was able to do, that survey is a great place to put in that information, and we'll make sure that gets documented and evaluated internally with our team. So with that, we wish everyone a safe and healthy holiday season, and we look forward to all of the great work that we'll be doing on behalf of your agency for 2021.